welcome. I see everyone coming in. Hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you all, see your names. Hopefully, I can see some faces. If you're not eating lunch, I know this is lunch hour, so if you're in the middle of eating, feel free to stay off camera. But if you're not, we would love to see your beautiful faces. So we are happy to welcome you all to our last installment for the 2025 year, which is crazy. But this is our last professional development series that we have. It's something that's been well received by all of our attendees and something that we're really looking forward to keeping up on next year in 2026. But I don't want to take long. I want to make sure we have enough time to get into the amazing content that we have today. But if you don't know, my name is Alasia Washington, Associate Director with the Nursing Catalyst teams, more so on the lab side. And I have the pleasure of introducing our amazing host today, which is Meredith. Meredith, she is our Manager Director with our People and Culture Division within THMA. And she is going to have a wonderful conversation with you all, centered around building your leadership shadow, but more so focused on influence. So we want to make sure that this is a webinar that speaks to you guys. So please utilize the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. Myself and then Preeti is also on the line, and we'll be monitoring and then keeping Meredith up to date with anything that you may have. But with that, I would love to give it over to our amazing host, Meredith. Feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Alasia. Can you tell me you hear me okay?
You're good.
Good. Quick audio check. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. And as Alasia said, if you're having lunch, please continue to have lunch. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm a little bit envious. But if you need to continue to eat off camera, no big deal. And then I will commit to everyone that I will, after this, go eat my own lunch. But good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're dialing in from. I am so pleased to be back and to be leading this installment as she said, your last installment of your professional development series for building your leadership shadow. This is, I think, my third time running this session, third year in a row. It's been so fun. And I'm really excited to dig back in with this group this year and walk you through the concept of leading with influence. So today we're going to be talking through how to understand, intentionally create, leverage, and lead through influence as leaders. So to talk, just to tell you a little bit about me first. I'm Meredith. You can call me Meredith. I'm the managing director on the people culture team here at the Health Management Academy. And I am many things, but I am first and foremost a wife. I have 3 boys under the age of 5. So that's them on the right. And a few like fun facts about me, I guess. I am an Airbnb enthusiast. We will very easily, my family and I, if we have an open weekend, we'll say, let's go find an Airbnb and go stay, within a 4-hour radius of the Washington, D.C. metro area. We do it all the time. We just did it a couple weekends ago. It's absolutely fantastic way for us to get out of the house, out of the routine, and the kids to see somewhere new, which is always fun. I say I'm a tennis lover. I just recently picked tennis back up as a hobby. I read an article about the importance of hobbies. And so I picked it back up as a hobby since college, and it's been really fun to dig back in there. And just a little bit about how did I land in a people and culture role? It's a long story, so I'll save you the gist of it, but I'll tell you that what kind of regardless of my role, regardless of the teams I've worked on, I kind of fell backwards into people and culture work in a way that was surprising to even me. And but really what has been a guiding path for me along the way has been a passion for cultural change and for the team members and talent that we have at our organization, just feeling so connected to creating a positive impact in their worlds, but specifically via our work environment that we're offering to people every single day. And so I love that work. It really does make me, wake up every morning feeling motivated. And isn't that what we all hope for at the beginning of every day in terms of our career? So that's a little bit about me. A little bit more about me, you see on the screen here. These are my values. So these are what I would say are my top 10 values, not in order, but just enough to create space on the slide. My top 10 values that I'll share with you, and then later you will share with me, are trust, authenticity, well-being, growth, autonomy, family, motivation, humor, grace, and vulnerability. And so we'll talk more about what all that means in a little bit, but I would never ask anyone to share their values with me without sharing mine with them first. So that is my invitation for you all to come. So setting the table a little bit, something I say to our team members at the Health Management Academy all the time is that no one is going to care about your career as much as you do. So you have to own it. You have to be really intentional about growing it, evolving it, keeping your skill set sharp. So kudos to you all for prioritizing yourselves for the next hour. I know it's not easy. I'm sure you have a pile of administrative work sitting on your desk. You have patient needs, team members that have questions, and you have shut your door and you're taking a little leadership moment for yourself. And so I'm absolutely honored to be here with you all today and spend some time focusing on your own growth and development, which I think is absolutely wonderful. So we are going to be watching the chat as we go. There's a lot of you on the line, so the chat is your best place. If you have questions or comments as we go, there'll be places for you all to interact. I have some posing questions and I'll ask you to put all of your answers into the chat so that we can field them there. Take only what you need. I say this one as an upfront. I like to offer people a lot of information, frameworks, ways of thinking about things, because I know that everyone needs different things all the time based on where you are in your leadership journey. But my goal for every session that I run, regardless of who it's for, is that if you walk away with one or two practical, tactical things that you can fold into your people leadership skill set, like I've won, that's it. That is a success in my book. So really take what you need. Don't feel overwhelmed by all the things. Just listen for what makes sense and what feels authentic to you. And then if you walk away and are able to put one into practice, then I will feel so happy about that. You'll need a pen and paper as we go. So if you don't have a pen or paper, at least like the notes app in your phone, I would keep that there. And you're here, be here. That is something that is like a mantra for myself as well. Just being present, giving this next few minutes to just you and your own kind of, reflection on your leadership practice and how you're showing up. And I promise it will be a good use of time. So, why does influence matter so much as a leader? Let's start there. When you're working in an organizational structure of thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of people, like you all are, leading with the kind of mindset of intention and influence creates a need for leaders that, like you all, to be super intentional around creating microcultures within your teams. So, what I'm not going to talk to you about today is here's how you can shift organizational culture. That is a big, meaty, hairy topic for another time that is far more than 45 minutes can unpack. What I want to focus on with you all today is how you can intentionally create microcultures with people in your orbit, the team members in your unit, how you can use your own values to create a compass for people, to be a guiding light for decision making and unit behavior, and how that will have a positive ripple effect into the day-to-day work lives of your team members, which is fantastic, but also for you. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. Adult learning principle number one is tell your audience what you're going to tell them. So here's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Here are key takeaways. First, culture happens. Second, we are going to lead authentically. And third, we are one of the most important things we do as people leaders is unlock the potential of other people. So that is the three things that we're going to focus on today. I promise these will make more soon as we unpack them one by one. So first, let's talk about culture happens. In the chat, I would love for you to think about how would you describe your system's culture to someone who does not work there? How would you describe your system or your organizational culture to someone who doesn't work there? Could be just like a word, 2 words, doesn't have to be too long. So take a minute in the chat, drop what you think.
Well,
And
they're
then I'll
coming
ask my
in.
THMA friends on the line to let me know what they're seeing in the chat.
Yes. So we have just culture, patient safety and quality, faith-based, values-based, collaborative, in transition, safe, open, warm, inclusive,
Amazing.
uh, a lot of just culture, patient
Yeah.
focus, mission, respectful, welcoming, a lot of faith-based, a lot of
Yeah.
collaboration, patient eccentric, patient-centered, welcoming, now teamwork, dignity, focus, transparent, whole care. We're getting some good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of threads through there, a lot of commonality through there, which is not unusual with our systems. To be clear, I want to say up front, none of these are wrong answers. There's never a wrong answer to what does culture look like and feel like at your organization. I think because the word culture is used to describe so many things interchangeably, we sometimes lose sight of what we're really talking about. And to be fair, it's super tricky to define culture. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time unpacking like what is culture, how do we define it, and then how do we create it intentionally. So I'm going to help you scope the concept that feels really kind of big and amorphous into something that feels really tactical and practical first. So the first way I'd offer you all to think about culture at the organizational level and just generally as well is it's really driven by styles and behaviors. So if you're unsure of where to start with the definition of culture or how to define the culture that you have around you, I'd recommend asking yourself some of these questions, or some of the leaders within your orbit some of these questions that you see on the screen. What kind of benefits do we offer? What happens when people fail here? How are decisions made? How do we communicate here? All of these things, the answers that you come up with to these questions, and so many more questions, of course, that could have been included here, will tell you what your culture is. The risk tolerance one is a great example. A risk tolerance has huge cultural impact on an organization. So what happens when people fail is a defining cultural element, regardless of industry. It speaks volumes to what it feels like to work there. And again, there's no wrong answer as to what good risk tolerance is. What's important here is that as a leader, your organization should know the answer to this question, should be very transparent about like, what is our risk tolerance here, to be able to set that expectation and be able to speak to how it manifests in behaviors within your system, within your unit, et cetera. So as you can imagine, each of these are cultural questions. They're heavily influenced by the leadership in your organization and by you, because you are a leader there. And what we say at the Health Management Academy is that culture lives everywhere. And that is absolutely true. It is shaped by everyone, every interaction they have, but it absolutely starts at the top with the people who manage people that we have and the leaders who are making decisions at the top. So and the reason why we think that is because they have a larger leadership shadow than our average team member, than our junior team members, than our individual contributors, people who don't manage people. They have more touch points, more interactions, more influence in the org. And so that's why we focus so much on culture work with our leaders at the Health Management Academy. And with that in mind, I'm going to offer you a few definitions of culture, specifically my favorite, which is the one that we'll focus on. So my favorite definition of culture is that culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated. It hurts. It hurts a little to say out loud. This one hits me deep. If I think about, and the reason why it hurts is when I think about all the interactions that the people who report to me have in a given day at work, all the meetings, all the hallway conversations, all the emails they receive, the things that I cannot control for, interactions that I'm not present for all the time to help them navigate them or coach or give feedback or intervene, whatever it might be. I have no control over these things, but they equally shape their experience and what it feels like to work for our organization and how they experience our culture. And so as a leader, that's super hard. But my advice, and what you'll hear me say a lot today, is that you have to lead with a level of intention. And how do you do that? You make what is implicit for you and in your organization more explicit. And that's the work that I feel like I spend a lot of time partnering with leaders on. How do I take what is in your head around these implicit expectations you have, these things you're trying to drive, the behaviors you're looking for, and how do we make them as explicit as possible for people so that we can start creating a level of intention that feels attainable for you and for your team members. So what it could possibly be implicit about culture? You just told me that it's behavior. Behaviors by nature are explicit. So let me make it real for you. 3 layers of organizational culture is what I'm going to talk to you about. So tip of the iceberg analogy is around like, what is the most visible? It is sticking outside of the water. These are what we see. They are the most explicit things we have. These are our dress code, our physical office environments. They are cultural artifacts like your handbook, like things that you can actually put your hands on so you see the same way as everyone else. These are the most explicit things that we have. These are cultural artifacts. Just under the water are things that we say. These are like we're getting into that kind of implicit place. Things like your values or your mission. Maybe you have them on your hallways, on your website, your laptop background has them. Your goals get communicated via email sometimes, or the organizational strategy, right? So they are still in the realm of explicit, but becoming a little bit more implicit because some people have more access to them than others. They are communicated different ways, etc. So that is what we say. And then at the most kind of implicit level, what we see the furthest below on the iceberg iceberg is what we believe. What's deep in the water there are the assumptions that we have, the unconscious behaviors. They play an equal, if not more important part in shaping your organizational culture and the unit culture that you have. And it's the biggest part of the iceberg, as you can see. These are things that are absolutely taken for granted. These are the amount of transparency with which you lead, the flexibility in your policies, how you communicate, how fun it is to work there. These are the things that sometimes I would say in a world where at the bottom, what we believe doesn't always match the top. So what we say doesn't always match what we do, and that erodes trust. So really what we're spending a lot of our time on as leaders is how do we bring what's at the bottom all the way up to the top in ways that feel more approachable for team members, to kind of equal out some parts of this iceberg and bring more of it up to the top, because what we see feeds what we believe. And the truth of it is culture happens. Culture happens, whether it's intentional or not. All companies have culture, all units have culture, all teams have culture. And I would encourage you to focus on, what's within your control, because even if you walk away from this session today and you're like, nope, I'm not doing any of it. I'm not doing any of it. I don't need to build culture. Like, it'll figure itself out. I'm telling you that you're right. Like, the unintentional culture will happen. It will shape your team members' experiences. You'll be leading from a reactive position, and that is not fun for any leader. So within your control is what we're going to focus on today. And the other thing that I would offer is, like, print this next slide out. I keep it on the back of my desk all the time. As leaders, we're trying to get a lot done, and we're trying to say, okay, I have this fantastic idea. I need to move the ball down the field, and I'm going to communicate it. It's a new process. It's a new plan. It's a new strategy, and everyone's going to love it because it's going to make everyone's lives easier. And it's such a great idea. And in reality, culture eats strategy for breakfast every single day. And so you could have the best ideas in the whole world, but if you don't have the culture there that's ready to sustain change management, that's ready, that has trust and psychological safety built into it, that you can, gain traction around your ideas, that people are ready to adapt and thrive within new environments, it's going to slow you down at the very least. And at the worst, it's going to eat your strategy for breakfast. So I print this one out. It stays on my desk. And we talk a lot in the HR world around how do we create what we call cultural differentiators. And so we'll talk about how we do that as leaders. And that's something that I focus a lot of my time on. Like, what is it? How do I make it feel different to work here in a day or in a world where anyone can go work in like a similar industry, and the day-to-day work will feel wholly similar, to the things that have to get done, the actual individual tasks or the various strategies that we have that look the same, but how it feels to get it done, I have control over that. So that is what I focus on. That's what I encourage our leaders to focus on. And that's what I would offer to you all as well. So back to the chat. How would you define your unit or team culture in 1 to 2 words? So this time, not your organizational culture, just thinking about the people in your orbit, the people that you manage, the people that you're interacting with most every single day. How would you describe your unit or team culture? Again, just 1 or 2 words, doesn't have to be too long. I'll pause while you put in the chat and take a sip of water.
They're coming in. So
Great.
first one, trauma informed. We have family, a lot of family, independent, supportive, family and friends, collaborative, team-oriented, team players, teamwork, reliable, close, reoccurring theme of family, teamwork, relationships, integrity, unified, innovative, dynamic, reliability, collaboration, teamwork, patient-centered.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for reading that out loud. Like, even in like, I don't know any of you personally. It would be lovely to meet you, but I don't know any of you personally, but even just hearing your answers from the organizational culture to what I just heard listed here, I hear very strong through lines from organizational culture from system to system. And I hear very strong through lines from unit culture from system to system, but they're different. They're different. And so, not for the chat, but for you all to just like noodle on after today. And as you think it through, as you're continuing to kind of unpack what you hear in the room today, how does what your unit culture is align with your systems culture or not? is something that I would encourage you all to think through. We'll come back to this a little bit later around how to shift some of those things that you want to shift. But I think first and foremost, it's awareness. This is how it feels to be on my team in my orbit. And this is how it is similar or different from how it feels to work at the organization and what they might experience on other teams or other units. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go, but also just for you to noodle on as we wrap up the time later and as you're reflecting on the things that you want to take away. I would say that how we continue to do this is bringing visions forward that feel authentic to you. And so the next thing that we're going to unpack is leading authentically. So leading authentically is a big topic that we could spend, I mean, multiple sessions on. I think authenticity is something that's so interesting to unpack, and how we bring ourselves into the work is so important. And both for our own engagement around the things that we're doing day in and day out, but how people relate to us and how we build relationships and how we gain trust and how we create work environments that make people feel motivated around. I mean, you can do it all through a lens of authenticity. And I think that's such a superpower. And so that's something that I want to spend a little bit of time with you all on today. So quick note on terms before we dive into some exercises and some kind of self-reflection quiet time. I told you you'd need a pen and paper. I promise that's coming. A quick note in terms. So we talk about these concepts that you see on the screen very interchangeably, generally. And I will tell you that they are 3 discrete concepts, and I want you to think about them differently. First of all, our values. These are who we are. Our values are what we believe to be true, who we want to be. These are our guiding principles at the core of who we are as individuals, and then thus as organizations. Culture is what we do, the behaviors that we talked about, right? The sum total of behaviors, how we show up and get the work done, what we do, that is our culture. Our engagement is how we feel about the work and how we're doing it. So how we relate to the culture is what we talk about in terms of team member engagement. So our values, both personal and professional, shape our culture, which this drives team member engagement, which is the ultimate goal in the end for all leaders, to have high team member engagement, thus loyalty, retention, all those wonderful things. So I will tell you that it was all too easy for me to find your organizational values online. A quick Google will tell me exactly what your organizational values are. They are extremely explicit, which is fantastic. Interesting that as you start to think about how different people in your system experience these values, right? Like I can look at Duke Health and I say Duke Health, excellence, integrity, teamwork, respect, innovation, a lot of the words that you all sent through, great, that tracks. If I asked 10 people in the organization how they experience excellence and what does it look like to experience excellence in the organization, I would probably get 10 discrete answers. And like, that's right, because everyone experiences values differently. Some themes will absolutely overlap, but the way you experience differently, and that matters a great deal. And the best thing that we can do as leaders is what I call walk the talk. Authentic leadership, as a definition, is really as simple as aligning your actions with your values. You have to walk the talk. You can't have a disconnect there. And so I don't know if any of you have any Ted Lasso fans on the line. I'm a massive Ted Lasso fan. And if you've not watched Ted Lasso, it's on HBO. No, Apple. It's on Apple. And I think another season's coming. So it's a great time to jump on the Ted Lasso bandwagon if you haven't already done so. But it is it's a fantastic TV show, first and foremost. It is a masterclass in authentic leadership. The guy can't stand but be himself. And so he is unapologetically authentic, and he creates a safe space for his team to in turn be themselves, cultivating trust. And then in the end, performance, no spoilers. I won't tell you anything else, but authentic leadership out there for you to unpack. And I think, having that cultivation of trust and having authentic leadership breeding that foundation of trust is extremely important, because I think we all know this. Trust is the gas in our tanks. It's how we get things done. It's the core to how every interaction we have as human beings. So as leaders, we need a lot of trust in the tank to get things done, to run an effective operation, to get the work day in and day out done. So trust, we say, is built over time with consistency, with what you say. Your values matches what you do, your behaviors. So let's take the first step in making what is implicit explicit in your leadership practice. So this is where you're going to need that pen and paper. We're going to take some quiet reflection time, and I get to stop talking for a few minutes, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to do the personal values map. I showed you my personal values up front. And so I want you to think about yours for the next 10 or so minutes. I created a list here that might be helpful. I want you to know this is not meant to be limiting to the extent that, words matter. I want you to pick words that mean the most to you. Write down all the words maybe that you see here that resonate, add some that you feel are your core values. And once you do that and you feel like you've gotten a good long list there, I would ask you to narrow it maybe to a top 5. Try to rank them if you want to go the extra mile. It takes, usually when we do this exercise internally with our leaders, we get a good long, like 20-minute stint of just quiet time doing this. I'm going to give you like 8 to 10 minutes to do this. And then we're going to share a little bit, which I think will be really fun. I've concluded some guiding questions at the bottom. If you need help thinking this through, what is the time that you felt the most fulfilled? What contributed to that? What traits do you admire in yourself or others? What values help you make hard decisions? And sometimes in your life where you feel really happy, what's happening there that might help you pinpoint some values. So I'm going to go on mute. You're going to do this exercise, and I will give you like a 2-minute warning, and then we'll come back together. I'm gonna say about 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes for the exercise. If you've gotten to the top 5 list in rank order, kudos to you. As an extra credit assignment, you could think about a statement, just one sentence. How does this value show up for me at work? Would be my next prompt. 2 more minutes. Okay, let's come back together. Let's come back together. I want to start with you all in the chat. Maybe share your number one value. If you got to the rank order of things, or if you didn't, tell me, I guess, what would be your number one value in the chat. No explanation needed. Just would love to hear where everyone landed.
We have family, integrity, self-respect, faith, leadership, teamwork, a lot of family, a lot of faith, consistency, compassion, commitment, accountability, kindness, grace, grit, respect, caring, balance, authenticity, self-awareness, reliable, service, integrity, grace, vision, uh, pro- adaptability, honesty, ambition, compassion, motivator, respect, integrity, loyal, honest, faith, hard work.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of those. I'm sure there's more out there too. In reflection, I would encourage you all to think about, how you came up with your number one. That's not easy. We go through that exercise every year at a leadership training that we do with a new round of leaders. And just to watch people struggle with, number one, but also they get surprised by what lands in their top 5 and what doesn't make the cut and what they have to let go of. And they think through why they're letting go of it. It's a whole fun exercise that we do with people as they just get to know themselves as leaders and the way that they're showing up authentically and starts a really great conversation. So that's how we're going to hear from you. I think we have a couple people on the line who said that they're willing to share. In a world where I can't hear from the hundreds of you, I'd love to hear from one or two. So Christina, are you on the line? Can you come off mute? Or Amanda? Amanda, are you out there? Maybe not. Elise, are they not there?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine. We'll catch
We
him
can
on the
circle back.
other side. We'll catch him on the other side. So just in reflection, I would offer to you all, think through as you go through your list and everything that you wrote down, How hard was this for you to do? Like, what did this exercise feel like for you? Did you have surprises as you were completing this exercise? And then, in going back to that number one, when I heard a lot of family in there, I heard a lot of different through lines, but a lot of family in there, faith in there. How is that showing up for you professionally? Like, how's that show up in your personal life? And how's that show up for you when you go to work every day? That can be really tricky. And as I said, we do this as an exercise with our leaders every single year. And everyone is so happy to always refresh it, because I will tell you, the first time that I created my top 10, it was, some of those things have remained regardless of where I am in my leadership journey, the kind of team I'm managing, the kind of things that I'm trying to oversee for the organization. And some things have changed and evolved with me as a leader. And it's been really interesting to kind of check in with myself once a year on where are my values landing? What order do they land in? How do they show up to work? How can I be more explicit about it as a leader? Because it does tell me, it does influence in a great deal how I show up and what my expectations are as a leader. And kind of this is what we have come up with for my team and for the team that I work on, people and culture here. And so this is what I would offer to you all. Every time, that we have a new team member come on, or we're doing like a team exercise, this is my boss, Sarah Davies, who I think many of you met if you did her session on the same series that you all are doing on the personalysis. But Sarah Davies, this is her slide. And so this is what she has created. And what you'll see at the top are her aligned personal values. So she went through the same exercise that you all just did, ranked them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are her aligned personal values. And she says, these are my values, and this is what the team is going to see from me because these are my values. So when I say that I'm fair, I'm always going to give you the benefit of the doubt all the time. Like, that's how I'm going to show up. Confidence, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to believe that we can do anything. That is how I'm going to approach a problem. I'm warning you now. We're not going to delve in, oh, this is impossible. We're going to immediately jump to optimism because that's how I lead. Family, she always supports us in what's doing right for us. She has her own family, a young family at home. A lot of us do at the organization. And so I can tell you that she lives and breathes this one, because every time I show up and say, hey, I've got a sick kid at home today, my calendar just blew up. She's like, great, you do whatever you got to do for you that feels right for you. And that's wonderful. And that's how she leads. Humor, she finds humor even in the hard times. I find that to be true about her as well. And transparency, she trusts her team completely. She will always communicate context. I would say, like, she does this almost to a fault. She trusts her team implicitly. She leads with a level of context that I think other leaders are not doing, and it only serves her extremely well in building trust on our team, given the nature of our people and culture work that we have to do. But what you see on the bottom, which is also interesting, we went through this exercise as a team, and we went through, how do we want to get the work done from a value perspective? And these were our top 5 values. And then what we committed to in terms of how we show up as a team, in terms of our culture. These are the things that we value. These are the behaviors that show up. And this is how we kind of operate. This is our kind of operation model. So now all of our individual team managers and people who lead people have their own personal values, and they have a version of this slide. And then our team has the common aligned team values that we keep. We use it as a common language. We use it around feedback. We use it around performance management. We use it around just setting really explicit expectations for how we're going to operate, how we're going to communicate, the way we're going to solve big, meaty problems, and the behaviors that we should be showing up with, both as leaders and as team members. And it served us really well, because I think that Sarah could have been an extremely effective leader without creating this slide, but we would have had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's in her head. And this is just, I think, a useful exercise for her to go through and say, let me take you like what's in my head, what I know to be true about how I lead, around what I value, and let me put it on a slide and let's just walk through it. And it like something so simple has moved mountains for so many leaders in our organization. And so I would offer this to you. This shows up once yearly in our kickoff of the year, creating momentum around the things that we're trying to accomplish. We all go through our values again. We go through our team values again. It's a good rah-rah moment that shows up anytime we're onboarding new team members into our team. It is, this is how do I make real like what the norms are and what you're going to experience here on the team. And then of course the team values, so they can align themselves to those, and then also start talking to us about their personal values. It's a wonderful kind of conversation starter to get to know people, and a wonderful kind of roadmap as you continue on your leader journey there. So the last piece that I'm going to offer you all, we said first as leaders, we need to accept the fact that culture happens, whether we're intentional about it or not. But my charge to you is to be extremely intentional. We have to, and I encourage you to lead authentically, even if it feels hard sometimes to be, because I think you have to step into vulnerability there. So that is what we just unpacked, how to lead authentically in a way that feels explicit. It is my final kind of position to you all that as leaders, we are, at the end of the day, responsible for unlocking the potential of the people in our orbit. That is easier said than done. It's another thing that we could spend a whole session on, but we can't. So I have a few slides on this that I have found to be helpful with others. The way that we unlock the potential of the people and the team members that report to us, people that we don't have direct report lines with, but absolutely that we mentor, that we spend time with, that are learning from us day in and day out. You can use all of these things as we go through all of those things. So what we're going to land on today is what is, I think, maybe the number one most important thing. So we're unlocking the potential of people, helps drive performance, helps grow and develop our people. So after years of digging through what exactly sets apart high-performing teams in their workforce, Google actually learned that there are 5 key dynamics of the highest performing teams that sets them apart from other teams. The first being psychological safety, the second being dependability, the third being structure and clarity, 4 being meaning of work, and 5 being the impact. And I will tell you that, yes, there's a top 5 here. And if you go into this article and you read through it, they will tell you that psychological safety wasn't just like, oh, like dependability is a close number 2. Psychological safety is far and away the most important thing that you can do on a team to create an environment where people not only survive, but thrive. They stay, they're excited to do the work every day. And I would say in a world where unpacking all 5 of these feels hard and maybe a little impossible, in the spirit of what we've talked about, focusing on what you control. As leaders, we can control the psychological safety that is on our team. And so kind of the TLDR of the article, I encourage you to go read it. We can link it and follow up if you're interested, but who is on a team matters a lot less than how the team members interact, structure their work, and view their contributions. So psychological safety on that team is the number one thing that we can do as leaders, and creating that environment is completely up to us. So I would say first, I want to make sure we all understand what psychological safety is not. I'm offering you another resource here. If you don't believe me about this, go read about Timothy Clark. He has done and committed his entire life to unpacking psychological safety in effective and functioning teams. And so he's been a wealth of knowledge in terms of an external resource that I read through and then bring back into our organization and train on. And so I think there are some things that people get wrong about psychological safety. And so I like to start here to make sure we're all on the same page. Psychological safety is not a shield from accountability. There is no diplomatic immunity from delivering results in the workplace. We all have to do the job. We have to do it well. We all have to be accountable for the things. Psychological safety does not mean you're not accountable for getting the job done every day. Psychological safety does not mean we are going to make consensus decision making. Psychological safety gives you a voice where it is appropriate, but it does not change who is the authority in decision making and the decision making hierarchy of things. It's very important to know who has decisions, to be able to respect authority, to understand when it is appropriate to give input and when it is not. And so consensus decision making is not psychological safety. It is not unearned autonomy. The bolded part underneath this, I say to leaders all the time, it has become a little mantra in my back pocket. Autonomy is earned, not owed. Autonomy is earned, not owed. And so especially in industries like you all are in, and many of the ones that I continue to give these kind of talks in, they find that people are really hungry and eager for autonomy, and leaders don't want to be what they call micromanagers. Sometimes what gets lost in that mix is autonomy that is given freely versus earned. And I would say that autonomy should be given with the context of earned over time, trust, performance versus just given freely. It helps create a system that has checks and balances on it, one that is safe. And so I would put that out there as well. And then last is not political correctness. No one should be harnessing psychological safety to advance any sort of political end. It should not be manipulated or used as a weapon in a conversation at work or anywhere else. So I would offer this up first. So what does it look like? Psychological safety. I think it's one of those things that you know it when you see it, right? Or you know it when you feel it is probably more accurate. But psychological safety, at the end of the day, again, Timothy Clark here, an environment of rewarded vulnerability. I'm going to sit with that for a minute. An environment, a work environment of rewarded vulnerability. So not only is it invited, not only is it sought after, looked for, question. It is rewarded. People want to hear it. They feel like they can't help but show up and be themselves in these kinds of environments. So people are included and accepted for exactly who they are. They don't have to adjust their appearance, their how they show it physically, how they show it mentally in order to acclimate into the environment that you have there. Team members learn and grow through feedback, wild ideas, and failure. This is something that's really hard to do. We focus a lot on this in our organization, but how do we make sure we have an environment where people are seeking feedback in a way that feels like it's not just positive all the time? We are all learning and growing all the time. Nobody is perfect. Nobody's knocking it out of the park 100% of the time. How do we make sure we're having conversations around that in a way that feels approachable, safe, as well as challenging? Because I think that's where we grow and where we develop. And so we're training our leaders on having those conversations, and we're training our team members on asking for them and being open to them. Team members share openly and equally. You're not hearing just from one person all the time. People feel like they can chime in, that they should be chiming in. Team members challenge ideas and the status quo. They go against maybe the majority opinions sometimes in ways that are productive. I'll put that out there. Not unproductively challenging ideas, but saying, hey, why haven't we considered it this other way? Help me understand. I think that is just such a healthy indication of an environment where people feel like they can speak up and have a different opinion. And whether or not it is acted on, taken in as input, or solidified as the final say, but just knowing that they can even raise it is in and of itself psychological safety. So I would offer that. Unpacking it for leaders, things that I think that you can immediately do in your practice if you're not already doing it in order to create more psychological safety. Listen for twice as long as you think you should is how I put this out there. I think that leaders are really great at listening. The best ones, of course, are, but the great ones listen for longer than they even think they should. And what that actually looks like is, somebody comes to you, they're telling you something, a concern, a problem, a challenge, they have a question, whatever it might be. And instead of giving them the answer or giving them your thoughts, you ask a question. You follow up with one question. And so you get more context, you dig in a little bit deeper with them, you understand exactly what they're trying to solve or what they're worried about. They feel seen and heard, and you have given them a signal that it is safe here for you to not only come to me with a superficial challenge or whatever might be on your mind kind of in the more immediate, but also I want to know more. I'm curious about knowing more, and I care to know more. And so that's the first thing I would offer. Some questions that you can think through asking, I would say unprovoked. As leaders, these are things that I do all the time with my team members on a regular drumbeat, like once a quarter. I'll make sure that I add this to our, regular check-in time. Hey, what is something that I need to know about you personally that impacts how you experience the workplace? And that breeds wonderful conversations, things that I do not know about people, that there are otherwise conversations that would never happen. And I think that also helps people feel seen and heard. And it also helps me understand how they experience the work environment in a way that I can't fully appreciate as my unique self all the time. And so it definitely positions me as a more effective leader, to be sure. And then action on the feedback that you receive. If you're not seeking feedback on a regular basis, start. I would say sometimes feedback can be hard to hear. But as leaders, it's, I think, that our responsibility to be seeking it, thinking about it, being open to it, even when you may not agree with it all the time, but just knowing that there's a channel there for people to tell you how it feels to work in your orbit, how you're showing up as a leader, what works like for them. Find these channels. If they don't exist, create these channels, and then take the feedback that you receive, look for themes, and act on them as you can. It will make you a more effective leader. It will create psychological safety on the people around you, to be sure. And then in a world where you're telling me, I don't really know where I stand on the psychological safety of things, here's a quick and easy assessment that you can take away and follow up today. We won't go through this together live, but I would encourage you to think through these questions for yourself. And then you could also go into your teams if you're really brave and ask them how they experience this with you, and what else that you could be doing to make to a better job here, and how to create more psychological safety on your team. So these is something that I will leave for you kind of in follow up of today. But that is the gist of it for the time. I hope it's been wonderful. Again, your takeaways for today, please, I hope that you feel empowered to create a thriving culture, and that you know that you need to start that with a place of intention, that your personal values are absolutely shaping how you show up to work, whether you intend to or not. So if you start doing it intentionally, you will begin to lead authentically. You'll be able to inspire others around you to also show up as other authentic selves. And then last but not least, as leaders, it's our responsibility to create environments where people are empowered to reach their full potential. I believe those environments are psychologically safe. Start there. Again, I hope you got one or two things out of today that feel tactical, practical, that you can weave into your practice, and you can save the rest for later along your leadership journey. But thank you all again so much for having me this year. It's been wonderful. Always a privilege and an honor to speak with all of you. And good luck in the rest of the year with Nursing Catalysts. Alicia, I'll turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Meredith. And the thank yous and the well wishes are coming through in the chat. Hopefully you can see all the hand clapping for you and the hearts.
Thanks,
But
guys.
hopefully you guys, from what I can see in the chat, it seems like a lot of you guys got a great takeaway from our conversation today. Again, we will be sending out this recording. So if you missed anything or want to circle back on any of the topics that we discussed, Phil, should be in your email by the end of this week, as well as the slides. I believe some people asked for the article you referred to,
Yeah,
Meredith. So
yeah.
I'll include that in the email to you guys as well. But with that, hopefully you guys enjoy. We cannot wait to see you at next year's professional development series. More information on that soon to come. But with that, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Meredith, enjoy your lunch.
Thanks.
Anyone else that hasn't had lunch today,
Go
including
eat. It's
myself?
time to
Yes,
eat.
going to eat right now. But thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.